Let's talk about speaking better. More specifically, articulation. And I'm not talking about using big words or sounding overly polished. I'm talking about being able to think clearly and then say it clearly. Because that is what articulation really is. It's that connection between your thoughts and your mouth. You've probably had moments where you know exactly what you want to say, but when you start speaking, it just doesn't come out the way you want it to. The words don't arrive in time, or you start circling around, you ramble. Maybe you use filler words to buy yourself some time. Like, you know. That's what this video really is about. Closing that gap between your mind and your mouth. And this is a real struggle today, because the truth is, most people are not bad at speaking. They're just out of practice at actually expressing their thoughts out loud. We spend so much time writing, typing, texting, editing that we've forgotten what it's like to think and speak in real time. And that's why so many people say, I know what I want to say, I just can't say it. It's not that you lack intelligence, it's that your brain and your mouth aren't communicating fast enough. And that's what we're going to work on here, right now. This is a massive problem in our society today because we're so dependent on always being able to cut things out when something went wrong or delete and start again. But in real conversations, we can't do that. Yes, we can of course say, oh, that came out wrong, let me start over, or let me rephrase that so it makes sense. We can always say those things, but we can never erase what we've already said. So what is articulation really? By definition, to articulate means to express an idea fluently and coherently. But to really understand what that actually means, articulation is really three parts working together. Your idea is clear enough in your head, the right words show up fast enough for you to actually say them, and you deliver them at a pace people can follow and understand. When those line up, you sound articulate, you feel articulate, but once one slips up, you feel it instantly. Either you can't find the right words or you start speaking too fast, which results in using filler words to catch up, or you lose your structure mid-sentence and start rambling from one point to another without really making any sense. So let's unpack what's really happening underneath those three parts. Now, most of us talk faster than we think. It's nerves, it's habits, it's trying not to lose the floor. It's that feeling that if you stop for even a second, someone else will take over. When you rush, your mouth starts outrunning your brain, and that's really when filler words start to show up. And that's when we miss out on what we really want to say. And that's when all of these struggles and problems in our speech and our way of communicating start to show up. They're not harmless, but they dilute your message. They make what you're trying to say harder to follow. They make you seem very unsure of yourself. Now, filler words by themselves are not evil. They can make you sound more natural. But when they start showing up in every single gap, they signal that your brain is struggling to keep up, that you're unsure of what you want to say. So what do? You slow your rhythm down. Not dramatically, just slightly slower than you think. It gives your brain enough time to process what's next. And when you pause, even for a split second, two things happen. You give your brain space to form the next sentence, and you give your listener space to absorb what you just said. That pause is one of the most powerful articulation tools you have. You don't need to sound slow, you just need to sound steady. And that's what you do when you slow down. Now, speed is one part of the problem. The second one is clarity. Clarity is how well formed your idea is before you even speak. Clarity in mind. Not just clarity in words, but clarity in mind. Because you can't express what you haven't processed. If your thoughts is half formed, your sentence will be too. And that's why strong communicators often take a beat, take a pause before answering. They're not stalling, they are loading the thought. They are giving themselves time to process what they want to say next. And that 1 or 2 seconds of silence makes your words cleaner. And this is where structure really comes in, helping you organize your thoughts before you ever start speaking. When people hear frameworks, they imagine something stiff or overly formal, but that's not what we're talking about here. Frameworks are simply patterns that help your brain organize what you're about to say. They keep you from wandering off. For example, one of the simplest ones I use is something called the PrEP framework. And I've talked about this multiple times in other videos. I won't go through it a lot, but it stands for point, reason, example, and point again. You say your point, give a reason for it, one example, and then you close with your point again. And that's it. It's not something you memorize. It is something you practice enough that it becomes automatic. And that's really when you don't have to think about using frameworks anymore. It just becomes natural. It becomes your default way of answering a question, giving an opinion, or explaining your point, conveying your message. When you practice frameworks, you train your brain to recognize patterns of clarity. And that's what frameworks really are about. Because frameworks, at their core, aren't the end goal. They're a training tool. What you want long term is to help your brain recognize the patterns of clarity. And that comes from using frameworks. Over time, you'll start speaking in structure. And eventually, you'll develop your own rhythm, your own way of speaking, shaping ideas, what makes sense to you. Frameworks are where you start building that muscle. They help you stay structured even when you're unsure what to say next. They're not there to make you sound rehearsed. They're there to help you sound clearer, to feel clearer when speaking. Even when you're calm and clear, there's still one more part of the problem: your choice of words. The truth is, most people already have enough words in their vocabulary. They have a lot of words in their mind. You probably have over 10,000 words in your brain right now. But when you speak, your brain keeps handing you the same few adjectives and repetitive words every single time. Good, bad, awesome, nice, like. And that's not because you lack vocabulary. It's because you haven't trained your brain to reach deeper. Think of your vocabulary like an iceberg. The words you use every single day are the small parts above the water. The rest, the more precise, the more expressive, detailed ones, are sitting below the surface. And you already know them. You just haven't practiced using them. A couple of quick shifts can be: instead of good, try useful, sharp, practical. Instead of bad, try unclear, overwhelming, unfocused. Instead of interesting, try unexpected, counterintuitive, reassuring, even worrying. You don't need to sound smarter or use this complex jargon. You just need to use words that actually describe what you mean. When you're always using good, everything starts to sound repetitive. My morning was good, the weather was good, my day was good. You sound flat. But when you use more precise language, you sound original, you sound clear, you sound intentional. And that's what makes your speech vivid and real. Every time you use a new word in a conversation, your brain brings it closer to the surface. And after a few uses it, it becomes another default you can use and rely on. And that's how articulate speakers talk. Not because they're searching for the perfect word every single time, but because their default words are better practiced. Think about someone like Jordan B. Peterson. When he speaks, it's not that he's trying to sound intelligent. It's that he spent years practicing precision. His vocabulary has trained through repetition. He reaches for more exact, descriptive language because that's what he's familiar with. That's really the point. He's not searching for impressive words. He's reaching for precise ones and practice ones. And that brings us to practice, because articulation at its core is a skill. No amount of thinking about speaking will replace actually speaking. You don't need a stage or an audience to practice. You just need moments. Moments where you talk out loud instead of only thinking. Moments where you explain what you mean. Not perfectly, but out loud. One thing I do all the time is use ChatGPT for this. I use it for work, for structuring ideas or brainstorming business plans, but instead of typing, I use the voice feature. Speaking my thoughts out loud helps me articulate them. And then, when I see how ChatGPT structures my ideas back to me, I can see exactly where I was unclear. And I do it again, but better. Another exercise you can do is impromptu practice. Ask ChatGPT again to give you 3 levels of topics: easy, intermediate, and hard. Then answer each one for 1 minute as clearly and structured as you can. Focus on not rushing, avoiding filler words, and using variety in your language. Try not to sound repetitive. And if you want to take it a step further, record yourself while doing it. Then listen back. Not to judge yourself, but to notice your patterns, your rhythm, your speed, the moments where your words don't match your thoughts, where your body language doesn't match it. And if you hate hearing your own voice, that's exactly where you should start. Getting used to your own voice is part of building that connection between your inner thoughts and your outer words. And over time, you'll realize that articulation has nothing to do with sounding perfect. It is all about becoming familiar with expressing yourself. Familiarity is confidence, because the more you do it, the less your brain panics and the more natural clarity becomes. So again, articulation isn't a talent, it's the natural result of practice, clarity, and rhythm. It's how you take the thought in your head and build a bridge for other people to walk across and understand it. You don't need to sound like anyone else, you just need to make your ideas easier to follow, for them and for you. Because when your words match your mind, something changes. You stop thinking about how to speak and you start thinking about what you actually want to say. If you want to keep improving this, your articulation, your confidence, your ability to express your ideas, this is exactly what we practice every single day inside my community. It is a space where you can get daily practice, daily feedback, speaking reps, and people who understand what it's like to actually build this from the ground up. You can join that via the link down below. And if this video resonated with you, hit subscribe because I post videos like this every single week helping you master the #1 high income skill, communication. See you in the next video. Bye bye.